The feds got Peewee Longway. They took down a lot of people, man. He been ducking and dodging and trying to move right the whole time. Y'all remember when Peewee Longway was on Vlad and he was dodging all of Vlad's questions. He was basically showing people how to answer the feds and everything like that. Well, it seemed like it done caught up to him eventually because they just did a whole raid. They pretty much took down all the members of his group and everything like that. They kicked the doors in and everything, and they found the bricks. They found everything, keys and all that, man. 200 million M's worth of work, man. So he was really like, they must have allegedly, now everything alleged, they must have really been moving it or whatever, man, because for them to find that much worth, like after taking them down, it like, man, they had to have been doing this for a long, long time. But at the end of the day, who knows if they're gonna end up connecting it back to them? If the feds raided them like that, they had to have been watching them and watching make transactions hand to hand and everything like that. And so, because usually when the feds come like that, when they hit you with them indictments and they actually come in and find everything, find the stash houses and all that, it means that they've been keeping tabs on you for a minute. And one of your homeboys that got picked up by the feds, maybe it was last year, maybe it was whatever the other year, but they've been watching the group ever since they done picked up that one dude. And now it's been a snowball effect. They done found out who the plugs were, who they were going to and everything like this, man. Because one thing about it is that Peewee Longway and them, they wasn't trying to bring no bad attention to them. Yeah, he was doing the music and everything like that because that was a legitimate way for him to be getting as much as he was getting from that side hustle. And so now that they found out everything about the whole operation and they took it down, they slowly calculated and watched, because the feds, they wait until they got a 99% chance that they're going to basically take you down before they make their first move. So they were sitting back quiet, letting them play out whatever moves they were making. But then at the end, they knew eventually, after they let them make all these moves and run up all this money and have all this work and everything like that, they knew they was going to eventually strike them. And once they pulled up on them, they basically found everything. They couldn't hide it. It was so quick what had happened, and they couldn't flush nothing down the drain. They couldn't throw nothing down the sink, toilet, or bathtub. And so at the end of the day, the feds ran into the stash spot and they seen everything. I'm talking about closet full of work, duffel bags, money in the mattress. It was everywhere, man. And so the Peewee Longway, they already knew that was one of his spots. They seen him driving up in and out of there. They caught the dude delivering the money and everything from all the proceeds to him. And so whatever information they got on him, whatever evidence they got on him, it must have directly tied back to that stash house, because they had to have known. How did they know what was in the stash house without going in there? That means they had to have an informant. People got to realize that these days that they got informants in their groups. It could be the toughest street dudes, the front line row people, the ones who putting in work 10 toes down. I'm talking about the front row people. The front row people is starting to actually be informants and snitches like that. We seen what just happened with a whole lot of other rappers in their cases, and everybody that they was hanging out with pretty much turning against them and testifying, and all the finger pointing and everything that's been going on. And so that's why one of Peewee Longway's homeboys, you don't think that when they got picked up, when they had an indictment on them, when the feds picked the case up and they kept everything low key, they didn't tell Peewee Longway that they ended up getting pulled over and this happened. They said this and that, right? So at the end of the day, the feds ended up putting a tab on them and watching them closely, and they let them pretty much do what they wanted to do, but knowing that, yeah, they're not just going to let them do it forever. They're going to wait until they build a case on them. And once they built that case and they satisfied with how they're going to take them down and what evidence they got against them, the DA, the prosecutors, they made the call and said, go ahead, get him. And this whole thing is that it's the feds doing this. So the feds put together a team specifically to watch Peewee Longway and his crew, because they know what was going on across state lines. They know where they was going to, the farms and everything that was happening, because at the end of the day, A lot of the stuff was in the music too. They was talking about, they started connecting the dots between the people, the places, and once they seen that one of the big fish, one of the big dogs that was in the streets was linking up with somebody in the crew of Peewee Longway, they knew that the only reason why they would do that is if they was in business and partnership together, trying to make these big moves in the streets and everything like that. They had a lot of work. Allegedly, they saying it was tied back to Peewee Longway's crew, but now we're gonna really find out what they're gonna have again on him and everything, because they're gonna take this to court. They're gonna have to fight the Fed case. Peewee Longway gonna have to sit down until he's able to fight this, because they don't give a bond in the Feds, so they can't bond out Peewee Longway right now for him to be able to keep going to the show so he could get the money to fight the case. And so because the feds don't give out the bond, he's going to have to stay in there for a while until they work this whole thing out and find out what is the evidence they got on it. What did they find out that made them want to raid that stash spot? And how did they know that Peewee Longway was connected to it? A lot of these times, man, people moving in the streets is getting tougher and tougher because they cracking down. But the level at what they was moving it on, I'm talking about, they found 200 million worth of work. That's like some BMF stuff. That's to that level. So anytime somebody gets to that level, and they can't let them just keep doing that, because you done got to a point where they should have stopped at 100 million. They should have stopped at 50 million, but they kept going 150 million. They still wanted to have $1 billion of work, but the feds were like, before, you feel like you got 100 million and now you getting away with it. Now, once you got to the 200 million, you really think you're getting away with it. But then all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, everything changed overnight. The feds come in, raid, helicopters, they jumping off the rope in the helicopters onto the rooftop, kicking in the windows from the 3rd floor. I'm talking about they throwing tear gas in the basement, crawling up underneath the sewer drains and everything. When they raided this place, man, they had the whole neighbor's house rented out to the feds to watch them so that they could use the binoculars and everything like that, man. The way that they was watching Peewee Longway, I'm talking about they had the high-speed chase helicopters following them around. Every time they look up, it's always a plane watching them and everything. They had the whole city on surveillance. They knew they were going around the South. So they had everybody. I'm talking about the Georgia State Patrol was watching them. Everybody was watching them. And so once they built that case around them and they found out who was doing what, and who was the kingpin, who was the big dog, who was the guys in the streets, who was the little, the little dudes and all that, then everybody start pointing fingers. You don't think they already got a lot of those dudes in the interrogation? When they took down the street level guys, they definitely had to have pointed their finger up towards the big dogs, the kingpins and everything. That's usually what happens, is that they actually pick up the dude that's on the street level who's just making a couple $100 here and there, right? And they get him in the slammer, and the feds ask him, who'd you get this from? We gonna let you out if you could cooperate with us. So once they got the cooperation from the little dude, that's when they were like, okay, they found out who his plug was and who his plug was, and it eventually ended up to catching the big dogs in this, which was basically allegedly Peewee Longway and everybody else that was with him, basically the whole entourage. And so they should have pivoted and took that money from the streets and did something legit from it, man, before it was too late, because they don't know when the feds are going to catch them. It's a guessing game. You taking a big risk doing all of this. And so that's why the greed and everything from the money, they thought they could keep doing this forever. But at some point, they should have stopped and been like, you know what? We just ran up a whole lot. We could turn this into restaurants, businesses, little things and that of that nature, clubs, everything that they already like to do. They could have put their money in that and started opening them type of shops. But you got to realize that the feds won't let you get away with doing this forever. They've been watching them. They let them get to this level. They could have really raided them when they had their first million. But now at 200 million, for them to hit them like that is going to hit them hard, because it's going to take down everything that they had built up for years and years and years. And basically now Peewee Longway going to have to be sitting in the feds for a while. Like this could be, it could be like 10, 20 years of time on this, because look at how much time they gave to BMF. So let me know what y'all think about this whole entire ordeal situation. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace.